welcome to this Wednesday edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, a show that is for the fans, by the fans. I am your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcaster, Chris Belcher. You can follow me at Chris Belcher24 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The show is at PBW Podcast on those platforms as well. So make sure that you follow us. Make sure you're subscribing wherever you find your podcast. Make sure you're following along with sportnarium.com / player. Those guys over at SportsWire do a great job. They play our shows just about every day. So make sure you throw them some support, not only for our show, but for their other shows as well. Don't forget, Bodyslam.net's YouTube channel is right now the exclusive home of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast video versions. More on that in just a little bit, though. But I am joined, as I normally am, by the Young Buck. Ladies and gentlemen, the indie darling, Mr. Andy York, is in the house. Andy, we're coming off reeling news about Cody Rhodes. If they missed our thoughts on that, we did a bonus episode yesterday. Make sure you go check it out. Andy, the dust is starting to settle a little bit. How are we feeling?
Still in shock and still trying to wrap my head around things. I never thought we would get to this point with Cody and with AEW, so it's crazy. We always talked about the first person to jump from AEW to WWE, who that would be, and I never thought it would be Cody. And if it's Cody, then everything's going to break, and we're in the Matrix, so it's not going to make any sense.
Full disclosure for all of you who are watching or listening, we literally just recorded that episode 5 minutes ago, so nothing has really settled a whole lot. We're still reeling from it, but if you want to know our thoughts on Cody Rhodes and the speculation and all that kind of stuff, then make sure you check out our bonus episode that we did yesterday. We have a very special guest with us today, ladies and gentlemen. My CCW broadcast partner is in the house. He's got a podcast. He's got a blog. He's got another podcast and another podcast. This guy is busy and all over the place. It's a pleasure having him on, Mr. Tyler Peters. What's up, man? How's it going?
It's going good, fellas. It's always a good time discussing wrestling and getting to be on the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. I'm just so honored. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. We always love to have special guests, especially when we do special things. So Tyler was on with us. If you watched our Cody episode yesterday, he is back with us today as we talk some more AEW and we preview the Elimination Chamber. But before we do that, we have two things of business. I know, I'm sorry that I rattle off a bunch of business at the top, but I have to do that. Some breaking news in the world of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. Nothing is set in stone yet, but I can tell you that are listening or watching that there is a brand new partner coming on board with the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. That will be confirmed and announced in the next probably week or so. Still working on a timeline on that, but there will be a brand new partner coming on board. We're very thankful for them, and we will hit you guys up and let you know where you can find our show on their network and all that kind of stuff. So big things. Stay tuned. It's going to be a lot of fun. The second thing, fellas, I don't want to waste a lot of time on this, but I feel like I have to ask, and I'm going to throw it to Tyler first. I'm going to put him on the spot since he's the guest. Tyler, what's your thoughts about the Super Bowl? That was a couple days ago. Big game with some new faces really in the spotlight. What did you think?
I thought it was a good game. I'm glad it was competitive and not a blowout like some of them can be. But I'm with you. I thought it was very enjoyable. I got to admit, I was kind of pulling for Cincinnati. I know that may make a lot of Tennessee Titan fans mad, and I'm sorry. I'm a Joe Burrow fan. But, hey, I respect the Rams. Odell Beckham Jr. got that ring. So did Matt Stafford. He deserved it. And I'll tell you, just so many great players contributed. And, hey, I grew up with the halftime show. I know some people's going to be critical of that, but I loved it. I was, that was some of my childhood. I got to admit, I don't seem like a closet rap fan, but I guess I am. I mean, yeah.
Okay. For the sake of Andy nodding his head, I will keep my comments about the halftime show to myself.
I figured you didn't like it. I figured you weren't a fan of it because we talked about this before. I figured you wouldn't be a fan. I will say this: it was not the greatest halftime show of all time. I still think the greatest halftime show is still Prince because Prince singing Purple Rain in the rain. I actually still get emotional watching that. So it's a beautiful thing. But I will say the Super Bowl this year was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I am a Tennessee Titans fan as well, and I was also cheering for the Bengals because I'm a big Joe Burrow fan as well. So you're not alone, Tyler. Well, I will say my two takeaways are Aaron Donald is an absolute beast of a man that
Dude, oh my
is
gosh.
ridiculous, and two, the Bengals need to just fire their entire offensive line and find somebody else to do it because their offensive line is what lost them the Super Bowl, and I stick by that.
If they do not find them a good left guard and right tackle, they are
Joe Burrow
in
is going to be
trouble.
another Tim Couch, and it's not going to be pretty.
It's going to be another long season.
Yeah,
it really is. But the Bengals have a bright future. The Rams are going to be looking for some coordinators and probably looking for some players, but nonetheless,
stay away from Liam Cohen.
You
Stay
better
away
stay
from
away
him.
from Liam Cohen.
Stay away
You
from him.
better,
Please stay away
you
from
better
him.
leave him alone. My goodness. Anyway, all right, we're going to get on a tangent. We need to get off of it. Here we go. AEW, ladies and gentlemen, not only did Cody Rhodes depart from AEW, that's yesterday's news. Well, sort of. Anyway, but last week on AEW, Tony Khan talked about the Forbidden Door being opened, all this, that, and the other. And Andy, we saw that in a big way because we predicted on the show last week that it would be Jay White. And guess who showed up, man?
Yep.
Being a New Japan fan and being familiar with Jay White and his relationship with Cole and the Bucks and all that kind of stuff, just describe how much of an impact that he's going to make and the weight of him now being in AEW.
It's absolutely huge. I mean, he is an absolute amazing wrestler. He's really great in the ring. His promo skills are absolutely amazing as well. And the fact that when he finally showed up, because he had obviously been on Impact, he'd been on a couple other US shows as well. And as soon as when he showed up in AEW, I think this is the place where he's really going to take off. I think this is another Jay Lethal scenario where he could come in and make a massive impact right away. Obviously with the whole Bullet Club connection, I really think that we're going to start to see a couple other New Japan guys from Bullet Club start to slip in. If you want to know who I think, watch Impact this week because there's that 3-man tag match, and I think some other guys are going to start coming in as well. And I am loving it. I hope at some point we finally get that Elite versus Bullet Club matchup in AEW that everybody's been kind of wanting to see. To me, it'll be like another Avengers Endgame moment when you have all the teams coming together to fight. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And, the fact that his first match is in Nashville and I will be in attendance for it, I am so stoked for it.
Yeah, that is pretty special. Tyler, what's your thoughts on Jay White? I almost said Jay Lethal. Look at you, Andy. Jay White coming into AEW.
Jay White's a great talent. Like Andy, I've watched him a little bit in New Japan, not as well versed as a lot of others about his career, but what I've seen, I've enjoyed. So, and he's a great heel. So I like what he's going to bring to the table as far as AEW is concerned.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good get for AEW for sure. I think that much like Jay Lethal, like Andy said, I can't get Jay Lethal out of my head now. It's going to just give him that opportunity and that platform to really shine and to really take his game to the next level. Another guy that's going to get that opportunity is the man that seemed to be the obvious pick for the Face of the Revolution ladder match, and it happened. Even though it was obvious, it did not take away from the reaction and the happiness that ensued, and that was Limitless. Keith Lee, not Bearcat, Limitless. Keith Lee in AEW. Tyler, you got a big smile on your face. I know you're a big Keith Lee fan as well. How cool was it to see him take his place there in that company?
I was happy for Keith Lee. Yes, finally, Limitless is back and some good theme music, for crying out loud. I love seeing Keith Lee do the pounce, man. Everybody's want Adam Cole and Keith Lee so we can see it again. Well, another time, good old times from the NXT days. But, hey, that was great. Cassidy was bumping great for him, and he looked strong. That hip toss, man. We want to talk about Montez Ford coming off the top rope from the heavens. Cassidy looked like he was up on the roof. That was awesome. That was
Go ahead. It was one of the best commentary lines that I've ever heard when Excalibur says, That was the Bradleyest Beal I have ever seen.
Right.
It was so good. I was like, Excalibur, I didn't know you were a sports guy. That's great. That's so good. Andy, you've been a big proponent of Keith Lee. You said that he is the biggest shock of all of the releases. Well, here he is in AEW. A lot of people were speculating online that, hey, he's a little bit overweight. He's a little bigger than he was in WWE, yada, yada, yada. I don't take any stock into that. Do you?
No, absolutely not. And I think it makes it even more impressive of the stuff that he was doing in the ring. I mean, he looked like he hasn't lost his step. And you got to remember, this guy was like on death's door at one point last year,
Yes, he
or a
was.
couple years ago, last year or 2 years ago. I don't really remember. 2020 and 2021 really just kind of run together. But like for him to come back the way that he has, the way that he is, taking wrestling by storm again, I absolutely loved every second of it. I think he is going to be a mainstay in AEW, and I'm really excited to see what they do with him there. And I think at one point or another he needs to be the AEW champion, and I think he fits that role perfectly.
Yep, I absolutely agree. Because he relates with the fans. He's got a good promo.
The fans love him.
Yeah,
he does.
I feel like he could be a very big, no pun intended, even though he's a big guy. He could be big on the front of like a community ambassador,
Absolutely.
that kind of face of AEW. I think Keith Lee is set up perfectly for that. So that, of course, brings the questions and the speculations of when is Mia Yim going to show up in AEW. The women's division needs a little pep in their step. I think she could be a good one. Tyler, what do you think? What's your thoughts on possibly her showing up as well?
I think, like you said, she could be a positive. I mean, they need it. They've got Thunder Rosa, they've got Martinez, some solid people, but you could definitely use some more veterans, some people with her criteria, her experience, and I'd like to see her get involved in the mix right away. She could definitely come in there and change it for the better. I think they could use them. So I'm all for Mia Yim eventually showing up and helping out that women's division. And I mean that out of respect. I'm not knocking it, but you can tell it's a new company. You always need that. You need those veterans like Serena Deeb. I love what she's doing. Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's a good point in comparison with Deeb.
Yeah, Serena Deeb is. We haven't really talked about that on the show, Andy, but I'm anxious to see how this storyline is going to pay off with her. Because what she's doing, there's got to be a payoff somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm anxious to kind of see what that is. But maybe that is Mia Yim. Maybe she's the payoff. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that would be a great spot for Mia Yim because we never really got to see her shine, even in NXT. Like they didn't really even use her that much in NXT. And so I think that would be a perfect spot for her. Another name that comes to mind is Ember Moon. I think she could come in and just take over the entire women's division, and everybody would be better for it because she is such an amazing wrestler. She's one of those that it shocked me that she never won a championship on the main roster. Like that to me, that because everyone wins the title on the main roster, and the fact that she never even got one is ridiculous to me. But I think Mia Yim, I think Ember Moon. But like you guys said, I love what Serena is doing. She is absolutely killing it in her role. She knows what her role is, and she's playing it perfectly. And I love seeing it.
Yeah, she is.
All right. Main event of Dynamite last week, a Texas death match. Hangman Adam Page retains his AEW World Championship against Lance Archer. Andy, these two guys beat the absolute crap out of each other. Like, there's no other way to say it. They just beat the crap out of each other.
I think we can officially call this one a death match and be fine with it. Like this was a death match. We talked about it before. We don't always need to see blood in these type of matches. We don't always need to see someone bleeding like crazy. It depends on the character, depends on how it works. Adam Cole, Orange Cassidy, we don't need to see blood.
Right.
Hangman Page versus Lance Archer, we need to see blood. And it was amazing and scary and disgusting and beautiful all at the same time. Like it was, I loved every second of it. The finish, I think, was so brilliant, so smart. I know we're not really big fans of Dan Lambert being a part of Lance Archer's team, but to come in and to take the top rope off so that he can't hit his finisher, I think was amazing storytelling in this match. I think it was very good. That was brilliant. I wasn't even expecting that.
Yep.
And that was really smart. I the whole tension between Lance Archer and Jake is really interesting. I love the fact that Jake was just beating the crap out of Hangman as well. Like, I was wanting to see the DDT on the floor so bad. I was waiting for it, and it was exactly what I was expecting. It was, both guys looked amazing in it. Both guys looked really strong. Hangman looks like $1,000,000 as champion right now. And I'm really excited to see what they're kind of setting up to go in the future, man. It looks really, really cool. The way that they're booking Hangman is really strong, and I'm really enjoying his title run right now.
Tyler, what's your thoughts on this crazy death match?
You know what? It's interesting because I'm kind of the old school type of person that I'm not big on the whole. Of course, I say that they did have blood in their matches. Just this whole concept was kind of new and different for me, but I'm with you though. They worked hard. It was a lot of physicality. They told a story, and I'm with you, Andy. I love Jake the Snake Roberts. The nostalgia factor definitely kicked in. I'm with you. I wanted the DDT on the floor there, but hey, I'll take the short arm clothesline. But you're going to have that because, the stipulations are so different and unique in this kind of environment. Yep. But hey, Lance Archer and Adam Hangman Page worked hard. I don't want to take anything away, and nothing wrong with the blood. A lot of people compared it to Abdullah the Butcher with the forks. So that was quite a reference. So you definitely could see that. So it was, hey, it was fun for what it was, regardless of whether that's my cup of tea or not.
Yep, I definitely agree. I'm with you that it's not necessarily my favorite thing that AEW pulls out, but when they do it well, and like Andy said, they tell stories in the middle of it. Okay, yep. I can get down with that. I can understand that there's an audience for that. I might not be it, but I'm also in the minority when it comes to that. That being said, very good Dynamite last week. We're hoping for a very good Dynamite if you're listening to this on Wednesday tonight because it's in Nashville, Tennessee. Yep. Andy will be there, and we are working on a very, very, very special guest to recap Dynamite coming next week. So hopefully we can get that worked out. But
yeah, the guest is very timid about things with wrestling, especially after that main event from last week. It did not go over well. So we're treading lightly.
It will bring a fresh perspective to the podcast. So we're going to try to make that happen. Regardless, though, it's going to be a really good Dynamite this week, hopefully, and a really good Rampage. We're going to see the in-ring AEW debut of Jay White taking on Trent. That's going to be on Rampage. Just some really good stuff. Sammy Guevara and Darby Allin. Anytime that these two guys hook up, like, it's going to be a barn burner. You still have the dissension between the Inner Circle. Then you got Mercedes Martinez and Thunder Rosa, Daniel Bryan and Lee Moriarty. Just some fun matches that are announced, Andy. And, I expect I haven't bought tickets yet. I don't know if I'm going to be going or not. But you having gone to the last AEW show and now going to this one, I'm sure your expectations are a lot higher, especially from what we got the last time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, from where the company was when they came here, they were here in 2019, I think it was.
Yep.
So it's been almost 3 years since they've been back, and they're in a different spot. They were really new when they came here, and they're obviously got a few more miles under their belt at this point. So I have a lot of expectations for this, high expectations. But based off of the card and based off of who's going to be there, I'm thrilled. I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a great time. I think it's going to be a great show. I enjoy Dynamite for the most part week to week, and I'm looking forward to being there in person and going crazy and waiting to see what insane move Sammy Guevara pulls out of his bag now against Darby Allin, because I'm expecting something big.
Oh yeah, it definitely will be happening for sure.
And obviously, I'm really excited to see CM Punk for the first time. So.
Well, I mean, of course. I mean, you can't leave that out. I mean, my goodness. All right, if you're just now joining us, welcome to the Bite Bomb Wrestling Podcast, a show that is for the fans, by the fans. I am your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belcher. You can follow me at Chris Belcher24 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The show is at PBW Podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you find your podcast. Make sure you download our shows on whatever platform that you are comfortable with. We're on bodyslam.net's YouTube channel. We're live on SportsWire Radio. We got a new partner coming up very, very soon that we'll make an announcement about. But we're also available wherever you find your podcast. So whatever method of support that you are throwing us, thank you so much. We could not do this show without you. Once again, my name is Chris Belcher. Joining me, as always, is Mr. Andy York, and our special guest this week, Mr. Blog, Mr. Podcast. He's Mr. Podcasting, not me. It's Tyler Peters, ladies and gentlemen, my CCW broadcast colleague. And right now we're going to dive into the Elimination Chamber. WWE's Elimination Chamber, for the first time ever, Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. The chamber is going overseas. Tyler, first of all, as a pay-per-view concept, how do you feel about that? Like, we've seen these Saudi shows, and Andy and I have joked that they're glorified house shows, and they really, really are. But they're stepping their game up, and we're getting a meaningful show in Saudi Arabia. What do you think about that?
We are. I think it is big news because I think they're taking it more seriously. I mean, I'm with you. It's like a house show, but why not up the ante a little bit? Because you're going to the road to WrestleMania, so you got to do something. You got this Saudi Arabia show beforehand. So why not up the stakes a little bit? Because you've got all these big-time superstars, and you're making some big-time matchups, the attraction and the appeal to not only that audience over there, but to us over here. So I think it was different, but I get why they're doing it. I think they have to. I think they've got to make it seem bigger than what it is, and that's what the Elimination Chamber, I know it's a gimmick, but it's one of the few gimmicks that I actually enjoy. You know, as a kid, especially growing up, the concept was neat to me. So I'd be interested to hear the feedback from you guys about that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm excited. Like you said, that they're bringing meaning to these Saudi shows, and we saw the last Saudi show, we had the Hell in a Cell match with Edge and Seth Rollins, and we saw some meaningful things. And they're trying, which I applaud. I think it's great. Let's run down the card real quick, and let's see kind of what jumps out to us. Obviously, Andy and I have talked some of these matches to death, but we're going to continue to talk about them. For the Universal Championship, it is Roman Reigns putting his championship on the line against Goldberg. We have the Elimination Chamber for the WWE title. Bobby Lashley puts it on the line against Brock Lesnar, Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, Matt Riddle, and Austin Theory. For the SmackDown Tag titles, the Usos defend against the Viking Raiders. Becky Lynch defends the Raw Women's title against Lita. In the Women's Elimination Chamber, to get a shot against Becky Lynch at WrestleMania, Doudrop, Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, Nikki ASH, Liv Morgan, and as we found out on Raw, Alexa Bliss will be in spot number 6. Sonya Deville and Charlotte Flair just announced to take on Ronda Rousey and Naomi in a tag match. Drew McIntyre against Madcap Moss, Falls Count Anywhere. Rey Mysterio versus The Miz, and Mansoor versus Jinder Mahal. What a loaded show. My goodness. Let's go to the obvious first reaction, the one that we didn't know until at time of recording. Andy, Alexa Bliss takes spot number 6 in the Women's Elimination Chamber. That's cool. I'm always a fan of Alexa Bliss wrestling and getting more screen time and all those kind of things. But like, to me, it was obvious that this should have been Bayley or Asuka.
Yeah. And it depends on if they're cleared enough to get in the ring, which that could definitely play a big part into it. I'm fine with Alexa, like you said. I really like Alexa. I think it's a great start for her to kind of get back into this match and get started with this match. But yeah, I was expecting it to be a Bayley, Asuka, or Trish. Like that, those are the 3 that were running through my head, were those 3. And so I don't know if we're going to get Bayley or Asuka by WrestleMania, which is definitely a big bummer because, you know, they're 2 of the mainstays in the women's division. I mean, you could argue that Asuka is up there as one of the best, not just female, but best wrestlers in the entire world. So like you could put her up there as well. So, you know, I was not expecting Alexa to take this spot, but it doesn't take away from the match. This is obviously the Elimination Chamber match that I'm not looking forward to the most. Not saying that it's not going to be great or not going to be fun, because of the way that they booked Rhea on Raw is exactly how Rhea should be booked. She looked extremely strong. And, you know, they made Bianca look strong as well. So I think those 2 are going to be the standouts. Now, honestly, I would not be shocked if it came down to those 2 as the final 2 to face Becky at WrestleMania.
Okay, so who are you predicting that wins?
I think it has to be Bianca.
Yep.
I think it's definitely going to be Becky Bianca, and I think she is going to get her win back after what happened at SummerSlam. That I really think that's where they're going to go.
Yep, I tend to agree with you. All right, Tyler, what's your thoughts on Alexa Bliss being number 6, and then give us a prediction for this match?
I think it's great. I'm a big fan, like you guys are, of Alexa Bliss and this whole character. I'm glad she's reverted back because now with the Fiend gone, it makes more sense for her to go back to her older persona.
Absolutely.
However, there's a feeling, even though I'm with you, Andy, about Bianca and Rhea, it may come down to those two, and even Bianca or Rhea winning would make more logical sense. But I'm almost wondering now that they've announced it and that Bliss is involved, if she's not going to end up winning the match. I mean, I've just got a feeling. Who knows? That would be crazy. I know, but I'm trying to think outside the box.
No, it wouldn't be crazy. That would make
would love
my
that.
day.
Okay, well, I didn't know about the expression. You kind of gave me. I didn't know. Chris was like, "Give me that look." I'm like, "Did I say?"
No. No, like if that happens,
Okay.
I will be on cloud 9. It would be amazing if she wins.
I think it's a
match.
possibility. Yeah.
I think there's a very good chance that it'll happen. I think we can all three agree that it's either going to be Bianca, Rhea, or Alexa.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those 3 ladies for sure. All right, let's move down the card. I don't know what sticks out, Tyler. What else sticks out to you? Obviously Roman Goldberg is a huge matchup, one that we were supposed to see at WrestleMania 2 years ago, didn't happen. What else sticks out to you as something though that we need to be watching out for here on this show?
I think the Lita Becky Lynch is obvious one. I think that's going to be a great matchup. I'm a big fan of Lita coming back, but I think if you want my prediction, Becky Lynch is still going to win because this will be a legend that she can conquer and defeat, much like I think Roman Reigns will with Goldberg, even though it's great to see some of these legends come back. And Lita, I would hope, would have a title run later in the future. Maybe if she stays long enough, I don't see that happening. But I think it's a great moment for her to be in the title picture. But for Becky Lynch, it's just going to cement her legacy more. And I think it does more if Lita's kind of helping get Becky over in this regard. So that's what I feel is going to happen.
I agree with that. Andy, what sticks out to you as you look down the card as something to watch out for?
The WWE Championship Elimination Chamber match. I think it's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be a really great match. I love what they did on Raw this past week. With Bobby coming out and cutting the promo and then getting interrupted by Seth and then getting interrupted by Riddle, getting interrupted by Theory and then Styles. And then you just have Brock come out and absolutely murder Austin Theory. That was before he used him as a hat rack and a coat rack, which was a great twist. And then taking the selfie of him afterwards as well. It's great. With that being said as well, if you have not seen Brock Lesnar's interview with Pat McAfee from Monday, it is the greatest interview I've ever seen in my entire life. 2 minutes in, Brock breaks the table. Before he leaves, the headphones are in the rafters. It is hilarious. It is absolutely amazing to see that. So if you have not checked that out, definitely go check that out. But yeah, the chamber match is going to be great. Honestly, I think there's like 3 or 4 guys that could win. I really think that there are 3 or 4, probably 5 guys. I think the only one the only person that doesn't really have the chance to win is Theory. And then from there, I think you don't know who's going to win. And I think that's what's so fun about the Chamber this year.
But I'm going to ask you to make a prediction. Are you still sticking with what you said last week, or have you changed your mind?
See, I don't know, because now that Styles lost in like 5 minutes to Damian Priest on Raw, which was ridiculous, I think I'm changing. I think we're getting Seth freaking Rollins as the WWE champion walking out of the Chamber. Ooh. I think he's carrying that belt into WrestleMania. Hopefully not against Kevin Owens, because I hope the other match with Kevin Owens happens.
Yes,
but if we do get Seth versus Kevin Owens for the WWE Championship, then I will be just as happy. So I really think Seth is going to walk out with the championship.
I think that the amount of talent that's in that Elimination Chamber, if it's not good, something's wrong. If that's not the best match on the card, somebody dropped the ball.
Yeah.
Tyler, who do you predict walks out with the WWE Championship in that one?
I agree. It's so hard to call this one because, like you guys were saying, so many stars in it. Seth Rollins is very intriguing. However, here's the crazy thing. I kind of hope Lashley retains. I just like the MVP combination. It's kind of like with Heyman, whether he was with Lesnar or Roman Reigns. That whole package is appealing right now, and I'm so happy for Lashley with this second run with the company. He's just got a lot of momentum. Now I don't know that that's going to happen, but that's kind of my wishes, is that Lashley retains.
I lean towards Brock Lesnar in this match, but I feel like Brock Lesnar is the obvious for this match, and this is a gimmick match where you can find a way to beat Brock Lesnar.
Yep.
So, Andy, I'm going to thrill you beyond words and say that I
Please
think
say
Matt
it.
Riddle walks
Yes.
out as the WWE
I
champion.
hope so. I hope you're right. I really do. I want to see Riddle.
I think it's Riddle and Randy Orton
Yep.
at WrestleMania for the championship.
Yep. And I'm
Now, beyond
fine with
that, I don't know what the heck to do with Matt Riddle as champion beyond that, but
No, just let him have fun. We need to bring back the weed belt that Daniel Bryan brought in, the hemp belt that Daniel Bryan brought in.
Oh my God.
We need to have that back. We need to have him just kind of come out and do his thing. Like I'm for it. Matt Riddle is WWE champion at WrestleMania. I think he's going to come out on like 7 camels down to the ring.
It's like all one big hallucination.
Exactly.
I can't believe I just gave you ammunition to
Thank
just
you
say
so
all that.
much.
You're so welcome. I tell you what I think is going to stick out on this pay-per-view, and y'all who listen to this podcast regularly know exactly what I'm about to say. And you're going to call me out for being a homer all the time, but I can't help it. The Usos and the Viking Raiders, if they get time, will tear the house down. Because I think back on those great Uso New Day tag matches. Okay, that's great. I think back to Ricochet and Aleister Black against the Viking Raiders, NXT TakeOver New York, and how incredible that match was. If you give these guys the opportunity, you give these guys the time and the chance, this will be absolutely incredible. I cannot wait for this match. I think it's going to be really, really good. Now, from what they've shown on SmackDown, they're not going to give them time. But if they give them some time, I think this match will be great. I really do. All right. As I know we've kind of crunched all this into a quick episode here, but before we wrap up our show, we always have to hand out our high spots and our turd sandwiches, the highs and the lows of the wrestling business. But on pay-per-view preview shows, we always do that differently. We're going to hand out what we think is going to be the high spot of the pay-per-view and the turd sandwich of the pay-per-view. So what you think is going to be the best, what you think's probably going to fall short. Andy, I'm going to throw to you on what you think is going to be the turd sandwich of the Elimination Chamber.
I think there's the obvious one that is the one that feels like a SmackDown or Raw match. So I'm not going to pick that one because I think someone else might pick that one.
Okay.
I'm actually going to pick one that I'm sure I'll get some flack for, which I'm fine with. I think it's going to be Roman Goldberg. I think that's the match that's going to be the one, because here's the thing. If Goldberg wins, then we're in the worst timeline possible. If Roman wins, then great, that's fine. I don't think it's going to be a fun match. I think it's going to be 5 minutes, 6 minutes. I think it's just going to be boom, 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 move, move, move. Okay. Somebody's hitting one spear and it's over. And I don't want to see Roman get pinned, especially by Goldberg. And I don't know how well it's going to look. So that's the one. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope it's the best match on the card because, I've been shocked before by Goldberg. Goldberg and Lashley at Saudi Arabia was really great. It was a lot of fun. But I'm just I don't know what to expect with this one. So that's kind of why I put it so low.
And they haven't added a stipulation to it, so who knows exactly what it'll look like. I think it'll be fun, but don't expect too much out of it. My third sandwich of the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view is going to be Charlotte and Sonya against Ronda and Naomi. And for the simple fact that I don't know who's going to wrestle who in this match. You're not going to really have Naomi and Sonya wrestle. They're going to chase each other. You're not going to have Ronda and Charlotte wrestle each other because they're going to wrestle at Mania. So you're going to see Charlotte and Naomi in the match, just like we've seen on SmackDown over the last month. And then for the finish, Ronda's going to get tagged in. Sonya's going to get tagged in. Armbar, tap out, over with.
Yep.
I get that you're putting Ronda and Charlotte on the Saudi show. That's cool. You need to. but I just think this match is a waste of time.
Yeah.
Tyler, what do you think, as we throw to you, the new guy, on what you think is going to be the worst thing coming out of the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view?
It's kind of a tie, but I'm going to have to go with the Madcap Moss, Drew McIntyre. And I love Drew, and it's nothing against Madcap Moss, but this is a filler match. I'm going to have to go with that. My other one was going to be probably Jinder Mahal Mansoor, or however you say his name. With all due respect, it's just. But I'm going to go with the Madcap Moss McIntyre matchup.
I will say Mansoor, though, in Saudi Arabia puts on some really good, decent matches.
I don't remember if it was the last Saudi show.
It was
or
the one against Cesaro. That was
when he wrestled
amazing.
Cesaro. Oh my god!
But I think that was also part because it was Cesaro. So the fact that this is Jinder, I completely agree. I don't think it's going to be anything special.
We'll see what happens. All right, Tyler, I'm going to throw back to you. What do you think is the best thing coming out of the chamber? If you had to pick, what's going to be the best match of the night?
Well, it's not even going to be the chamber matches. I'm going to have to go back to Becky and Lita. I think they're going to steal the show. There's a lot of great storyline there where Lita looked up to Becky or Becky looked up to Lita. Let me rephrase that. I said that wrong, buddy. What's wrong with me? But I think that's going to be one that'll tear the house down.
I'll go ahead and steal the other one, and then Andy, you can just pick between the two. It's got to be the men's chamber match. To me, I said it earlier. If this match is not the best match on the card, WWE's got problems because you got 5 of the best talents in the company. Well, 4, and then Riddle and Theory, depending on how do you want to categorize them.
Put Riddle in there.
I did say he was going to be WWE champion, so I guess he could be one of the best. But no, that match has to be the best for me. What do you think, Andy?
I'd honestly, I still think the Usos Viking Raiders, if they give them time, I think it will be the best match of the night. I think it's the pre-show match, probably. I think it's the match that starts off the show. I think it's a great way to get everybody feeling good and feeling happy and let them just go out, give them 15 minutes to just do whatever they want to do. And I promise you, it'll work amazing. And so I'm really excited for this match, and I think it's going to be a great one.
You know, one of the things that we didn't mention, none of us mentioned it as our high spot or turd sandwich for good reason, and we didn't mention it before we did that, is Rey Mysterio and The Miz, a match that just got added. Again, you give these guys a little bit of time. These are veterans that know how to tell stories and work in the ring. Tyler, I think this could be a really underrated match that we could all be very impressed coming away from.
It's going to be a great match because like you said, you got 2 experienced guys. I love how The Miz works. You talk about a great heel, the way he betrays the moves and tells that story. And then Rey Mysterio is the ultimate hero, the babyface. I mean, we've been watching him since he came to WCW and then made the transition to WWE. So, and I think with Maurice getting involved, I mean, that's interesting because is there going to be somebody show up for Ray? I know we got Dominic, but I mean, that's always fascinating. Well, you know, she's plugged in. What's going to happen? But I think the way these guys go back and forth, their chemistry, they're going to deliver. You're so right. I think it's going to be another one that could possibly steal the show because it's not getting enough talked about.
2 more things really to rapid fire real quick before we sign off. I'm going to throw to Andy first on this. Andy, you alluded to it earlier. The news about Stone Cold Steve Austin. There is rumors that he's going to get in the ring at WrestleMania against Kevin Owens. Now, I think this is going to be nothing but rumors. I don't think the match is going to happen. But for the fact that they're pushing for this match, like, in my opinion, weigh in on this real quick, I would have had Seth Rollins versus Steve Austin rather than Kevin Owens. That would have been more ideal for me.
I think, one, the fact that he uses the stunner, I think that's a story right there. But then I just think back to the working man, the man that should not be there, but that is there, the one that, you know, sticks it to authority whenever he can as well. I think the story itself between Stone Cold and Kevin Owens writes itself. I think if we couldn't get Stone Cold versus CM Punk, getting Stone Cold versus Kevin Owens is the next best thing. And I really think it's going to be absolutely, if this does happen, I am going to be very thrilled, very happy. I think this will be the sentimental match of the year if this happens. So I really think that this, like, I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's a very slim chance. But if it does happen, Kevin Owens, I think, is the perfect opponent for him. Because, one, he can carry him in the ring, help him not carry him, but obviously he hasn't wrestled in, 19 years? So it's been It's been a while, so he
a
needs
minute.
somebody in there that can help him, and I think Kevin Owens is that guy.
What are the chances, percentage-wise, you think this actually happens?
Being generous, I think it's like 30% chance that it happens.
I'd say less than that, but you're
Probably, but being generous, I would say
that's being generous.
I'd say the highest is 30.
Yep, there you
So.
go. All right, Tyler, I'm going to throw to you on the second rapid fire topic before we sign off. SmackDown is taped this week, and we found out that Sami Zayn has defeated Shinsuke Nakamura to become the Intercontinental Champion again, all to set up a championship match at WrestleMania for Johnny Knoxville. What do you think? I mean, talk about all the great Intercontinental title matches we've had, especially at WrestleMania, and we're about to get Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville.
Yeah, when I think of that, I think of Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels. I really do. No, that's how sarcastic I wanted to be. Yeah, Johnny Knoxville, whether you love his comedy or not, this is ridiculous. But this is that sports entertainment kind of aspect that Vince loves. I mean, so you're going to get the celebrity. We got to have them at WrestleMania. Not knocking that, but at least get somebody that's believable. I mean, Sami Zayn has saved us. I've not even enjoyed these segments, but at least the guy can talk and, make it at least worth watching. But that's been the downfall to SmackDown for me, having Johnny Knoxville. And I hate to be one of those people that's just going to knock on him because he's the Hollywood guy. But out of all the people, you got Johnny Knoxville. I mean, give me Pete Rose again. Bring him back. I mean, at least with Kane, that was entertaining. I mean, come on. I mean, this is.
My goodness.
But no, that's going to be terrible. I'm with you.
Let me
throw this out there. Do you think we get 2 celebrity title matches at WrestleMania?
Who's going to be the other?
Do you think we get Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn and Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest?
Oh my God.
I would be more excited for Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest. I think
That'd
that match would be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. It'd be an improvement.
If we do get Knoxville versus Zayn, I think Knoxville wins and loses it the next night on Raw. I really do, or on Friday, whenever they do it. I think that is exactly how they're going to go. And I'm not looking forward to that at all.
If they have both of those matches, you can guarantee one of those
somebody's
going
to
win.
Yeah,
somebody's going to win for sure. All right, Tyler, thanks for hopping on and being a special guest. We appreciate it. Please take an opportunity, plug your social media, plug all of your podcasts, Mr. Podcasting, and plug your blog and all those kind of things.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I'm on Twitter at Dustin Tyler 86 is the best way to kind of reach me. I'm also on Instagram at Dustin Tyler Peters and Facebook as well. But some of the podcasts that I'm honored to be able to take part of are the Rewind Wrestling Radio podcast, also on SportsWire, just like the Pop Bomb Wrestling podcast. You can find us at the Rewind Podcast on Twitter. We've also got a Facebook page and Instagram as well. Beyond the Ropes podcast talks a little bit of retro wrestling with new wrestling. We've also are on mainly YouTube, and then I just got agreed to do the After Wrestling Review that's hosted by Waylon Myers and then Steve Fox, and that's normally on Sundays, and I reckon we're going to go live every Sunday, and just so many exciting things happen. And my blog is Tyler's Take. You can find that on Facebook and at Tyler's Take 86 on Twitter. So I know I feel bad. I'm not bragging. I'm just humbled that you guys have me on the show and getting these opportunities because I get wiser. I really do. I get the knowledge from you guys.
We bring on wrestling fans on this podcast, and we want to point everybody to make sure they check out Tyler's stuff because, again, he's a smart guy or he wouldn't be on our podcast.
Well, thank you.
I'm just saying, go check out his stuff. It's very, very intriguing. Tyler, thank you again for being on the show. And thank you all for supporting the show. Thank you all for following us on social media at PBW Podcast. Thank you for subscribing wherever you find your podcast. Thank you for following along on this journey. We really appreciate it. We could not do this show without you. We couldn't be announcing a new partnership without you, which we are going to do in the coming weeks. So be on lookout for that. Thank you so much for checking out our show. For Mr. Andy York, my name is Chris Belcher. Thanks for joining us on this edition of the Pie Bomb Wrestling Podcast. We will catch you guys down the road.